Good evening. I am Marcia Marins, member of the League of Women Voters of Chautauqua County, and we are pleased to present our Meet the Candidates night here at the Opera House. I love doing it here. Our role is to let the candidates talk as directly to the people as possible. We let the candidates challenge each other on the facts. Journalists, pundits, and voters will all have the opportunity to fact check afterwards. It's a debate. We, like a referee, enforce the rules and the time and simply stay out of the way. Our timekeeper is there, candidates. They're right in the center. If you just flick the lights on for a second, Jack, somebody, that's where you have to look. And keep an eye on her, because I will be keeping an eye on her for you if you are not. We want voters to be informed, and this debate gives them a means of forming a first-hand judgment of the candidates, and also serves the candidates because it gives them an opportunity to present their views. We do have some parameters regarding questions. Some will come from you, the audience, preferably on an index card. Some have been submitted before this evening. We also have a phone number that our viewers can call in on, and that is 679-5227. All questions must be pertinent to the office and the issues and not of a personal nature. They should not be designed to attack a particular candidate. They should not be repetitive or duplicate material already covered. They will be screened for these considerations before candidates respond. There's also a microphone on this side of the house. So if you want to ask a question that just occurred to you, you may come up to the microphone over there. A few rules about those questions. It is not an opportunity for a speech, a personal history, editorializing, or an argument. And may I remind long-winded questioners that the purpose of this forum is to hear the views of the candidates. Therefore, I encourage precision, brevity, and simplicity. We are here to serve the public's interests, neither the leagues, the candidates, nor the media's. Cell phone ringers should be turned off as a matter of courtesy. Videos must be rebroadcast in its entirety to ensure that information is not manipulated to create a false or misleading impression. No candidate should be allowed to use or edit the footage for campaign purposes. I might add that many of you know who you will vote for. So this debate really is not for you. It is for people who are undecided. So please save your applause and anything else for your candidate until the end, so we may keep on schedule. The League of Women Voters is a trusted political organization that does not support any candidate or political party. League places an emphasis on getting out the vote, voter registration drives, Take Me to Vote programs in elementary schools, and efforts to streamline voter registration laws, for which we have made quite a bit of progress this year. These are all a continuing part of League activities. May I present my co-moderator, Judy Reynolds.
Thank you. Here are some things would you consider to pay attention to. First, what issues are most important to you? If they have not touched your issue, then you will have the opportunity to ask them. How does each candidate answer a question? Do they really answer the question or deflect? Are they specific? Are they sincere? Are they knowledgeable? It would be good if you would have a conversation with your friends and family about what you heard tonight. Did anything sway you? Did you learn anything new?
For this first segment, we welcome candidates for Mayor of Fredonia, Athanasia Landis and Douglas Essick. Candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to a question they received prior to this meeting and include a brief presentation discussing their qualifications. After the opening statements, candidates will have the ability to question one another, and members of the audience will be urged to ask questions of any candidates or all the candidates. Each reply will be limited to 1 minute.
If a question is addressed to a specific candidate, others will be able to welcome, to add comments or replies of his or her own. Candidates will also be able to rebut or challenge one another, which is limited then to 30 seconds. At the end, there will be 1 minute for closing statements. This is the question that the candidates have received. What do you consider the most pressing issue facing the village of Fredonia, and what would you do to address and resolve this issue if elected?
We'll begin with Ms. Landis.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event, as well as my opponent and everyone who came tonight. My name is Athanasia Landis. I'm a physician, a wife, a mother of 5 children, and I'm also the mayor of the village and running for re-election. 4 years ago, from the stage of the last debate, when I was asked to identify the one problem that was the most urgent in the village, I stated that, in my opinion, it was the deterioration of the overall quality of life caused by economic instability. I promised then to put all of my attention into changing that. I also promised to take seriously the request that came to me when I was campaigning that things had to come to change. People wanted more openness, more transparency, greater accountability. For 4 years, I have worked as a full capacity as your mayor and closely cooperated with the state, the county, and SUNY Fredonia. The results speak for themselves. Over $7 billion in grant money for downtown revitalization and infrastructure improvements, 35 new businesses, 11 additional village employees, no tax increase. Unfortunately, change is difficult. Progress is difficult. Identifying village problems takes time and effort. The process of becoming more open, transparent, and accountable often seems harsh or abrupt. It takes some people out of their comfort zone and inevitably upsets them. Something as simple as asking them to follow procedures and the law has been translated into a kind of dictatorship that threatens the very foundation of that's how we've always done it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Essick?
Thank you. I am Doug Essick, and I would be honored and privileged to be Fredonia's next mayor. I am a proven leader and have decades of experience in leadership positions in our community. I am currently the president of the union where I work, and I handle contract and employee issues daily. I have been third assistant chief, captain, and lieutenant for our fire department. I have been an incident commander dealing with EMS calls to deadly train crashes for nearly 30 years. I have a working knowledge of our village charter and understand how our village operates since 2017. As part of my trustee duties, I assisted with negotiating the PPD sewer contract, making it simple, fair, and on schedule to be reviewed every 5 years. The most pressing issue facing Fredonia today is our failing infrastructure. Some are obvious, like failing buildings, roads, parking lots and equipment, and our water and sewer plants. Underlying problems such as our water and sewer transmission lines are in desperate need of replacement and upgrades. We have paid for costly engineering studies that need to be implemented. Also, our comprehensive plan needs to be updated to obtain future grants. As mayor, I will collaborate with other municipalities and government agencies to attain any money available and get the funding that we need for these repairs. I will seek multi-jurisdictional grant funding initiatives and work towards shared facilities. I will elicit both public and employee input to find solutions to our failing infrastructures, because listening is part of leadership. Infrastructure improvements are essential to economic development. Fixing our infrastructure is the first step to a more prosperous Fredonia. This will be a team effort. As your mayor, I will be dedicated and fully equipped to tackle the upgrades needed on Fredonia's infrastructure and anything else that arises. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the audience? I don't see anybody at a mic, so I'll assume not yet, but soon. I'm sure you'll jump up. So the first question we have that was submitted previously for both Mr. Essick and Mayor Landis is, what are your plans for the $2.5 million Smart Growth Grant? We'll begin with Mr. Essick.
That money has already been earmarked for part of it to the Opera House here, $1.3 million, I believe, and then $1.2 million for downtown revitalization. That process and the project is already in progress right now, and there are many different things that are going on downtown that are happening with that grant.
Thank you. Ms. Landis?
Yes, well, thank you for the question. First of all, my opponent has voted against this money. Let's put something in record. When I applied for this money, he voted against the application. But he's right, the money is already being earmarked. It's $1.3 million for this Opera House. As a matter of fact, we had the first few meetings going forward with possible architects. And then we have the downtown placemaking and streetscape, which is going to address sidewalks, is going to address lights, crosswalks, curbing, and all that to make the downtown interesting, to make the downtown walkable, safe for pedestrians, and it's a part of a much bigger effort downtown.
Can I rebut that?
Yes.
Okay, my
30
opponent,
seconds.
my opponent says that I voted against that project. The only part I voted against the project was at the end of our resolution, which gave my opponent carte blanche to sign any and all future documents related to this project. And in government here, we have checks and balances, and our village trustees are the checks and balances with our mayor on the decisions and everything that's done. So I was not against the project. I was against the checks and balances being removed from that resolution.
Can I answer that?
Yes.
However,
And that's the final rebut.
yes, of course. However, if everybody voted against that, this money would never been here. So yes, you voted against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
What have you both done to increase, or what will you both do to increase transparency?
We'll begin with Mayor Landis.
Well, let me address as to what I did already. When I took office, the workshops was done at the mayor's office and with no televised, it was not televised. I changed that. The first meeting, I took the workshops upstairs, we televised it. In about 2 or 3 months after that, we live stream everything, both workshop and meetings, so the people of the village know what's going on. I took it upon myself to visit the radio station once a month. I have a standing appointment to go and ask questions, to answer questions. And after that, we have a Facebook page for the village. We have we update the webpage as much as possible. And in an effort to have the village people come and ask questions, come and discuss whatever they want with me in a very informal way, I have coffee with the mayor once every month, the first Wednesday. Everybody's welcome, 9 o'clock and after.
Thank you.
I see transparency in our village government as when we have projects, whether they're the park grant or any other project such as that, where we have a lack of public input that we've had so far. There needs to be more transparency in when you start a project or you do anything whatsoever, that you include the public in the process, and that way everybody's on the same page. That's it.
Can I
Thank you.
answer that?
You have 30 seconds.
Okay. Well, in the beginning of every year, I send an email to all trustees to come and meet with me at their pleasure, and, or to invite me to go and meet with them so I can tell them exactly what happens every week. 3 trustees took me off on that invitation. 2 have never done it. Mr. Essek never came to see what's going on. So don't ask, you're not gonna get any answers.
Thank you. Question at the mic. Nope.
Okay.
Mr. Essex, I was wondering how you plan to meet with department heads, other government officials, contractors, and everyone else the mayor has to meet with, given that you have a full-time job.
That's a great question, thank you. Busy people are asked to do a lot of things because they make things happen and they're able to manage their time. I normally work till 3:30. I have vacation time and personal time. I see no problem with meeting with department heads at 3:30 on any day during the week, or I can take off prior to that. That's not an issue. I work full-time, and I'm a busy person. I'm able to manage my time. I believe when you have a team that you work with that can handle other things, you can rely on your team to help with the processes of village government. So working full-time is not a problem whatsoever. I can handle whatever is given to me.
Thank you.
May I answer that?
Absolutely.
Well, this is what I see as a not understanding of the job. My opponent thinks that he can come here for half an hour after work or during work and meet with everybody. Well, without thinking, I can tell you that in a week that is now very busy, I talk to people, I talk to department heads, I talk to the state agencies, I talk to engineering companies, at least 15 to 20 hours a week. That doesn't happen after 2:30. Nobody's there after 2:30. That happens at 9, at 10, at 11 o'clock. That happens during the day. You have no understanding of the job, Mr. Essek.
Thank
May I
you.
rebut that, please?
Yes, 30 seconds.
Mayor, this is why you have a great administration team that works with you and alongside you. When you're not there, the administration team can assist you in a lot of these different things. I don't have to be micromanaging every aspect of village government 24 hours a day, and I do believe I would be able to have the time for this position.
Can I have a question?
Thank you. Not now.
Okay.
Rebutted once. Yes.
Hi, my name is Melissa LaFell. I'm a teacher at Dunkirk High School. I work full-time as well. I know for me, after 3:30, I'm exhausted because I work.
What is your question?
Yeah. Can I ask 2 questions?
That's what I want, the question.
So when you say that you don't want to micromanage, Mr. Essek, I'm sorry, that, and you are happy to leave things to your team, it makes me a little nervous. What are the things that you're willing to step away from and things that you feel like you need to be involved in as the mayor? And then I'll get
Thank
to
you very much.
There's day-to-day operations that take place with the village employees and their administration. Obviously, if there's times where I have to meet with specific other government officials, I would make the time and take the time off to do that. Other than that, I believe that I absolutely am able to handle the position with all the different aspects of the job.
Thank you.
Can I answer
Hold it.
something?
Okay.
Can I
You
answer
have 30 seconds.
Sure. Thank you. So are you planning to hire any more people? If yes, where are you going to find the money? The budget is already closed. And January 1st, where are you going to find the money to hire people? And exactly what kind of people are you planning to hire?
Thank you. Mr. Essick.
That will be determined when the new administration takes place. It'll be a team effort to decide the efficiency and effectiveness of what we have currently of the employees working. We will figure if we need to hire more people. Well, currently, in our current budget, we found money for a wastewater treatment plant operator at $50,000. I'm not saying that mid-budget I'm going to be able to find money or that's the right thing to do all the time. But the new administration as a team will determine the outcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there any other questions? You can give me questions all night long, but we do have some here, so thank you.
Hi, Alex Wolozinski. What specifically do you view as the role of the mayor?
Say that again, Alex.
What specifically do you view as the role of the mayor?
We'll begin with Mr. Essick.
The role of the mayor is, one, he's the ambassador of the village that he is the mayor of, and two, he is the leader of the village, and as such, takes those leadership responsibilities and roles. Also, he's part of the village. I know this summer here and throughout my career, you attend events and different things that the village is having and holding. You are part of your village. That's the role of the mayor as well.
Thank you.
Should I answer?
Yes?
Excuse me. Well, the role of the mayor is, of course, the leader of the village, but it's much more than that. It's much more than going to the meetings and roll call as to how the village board is going to vote. Is the ambassador of this village, is the representative of these people to the state, to the county, to the federal government. Everywhere I go as a representative of you. Everywhere I go with the interest of the people in my mind. Is the, done? Am I done?
No.
No, a
Oh,
red
I'm
light
sorry.
will go
Yeah.
on.
I go with the interest of the people in my mind, trying to find money, try to make plans, try to talk to people to come up with ideas. I drive to Albany at least 3 times a year. I stay there for 3 or 4 days. I talk to the governor. I talk to the governor's office very often. I talk to different engineering companies to come up with plans. Mr. Essick talked about infrastructure. Probably he was not here for the last 4 years. We more than $6 million
Thank
in
you.
infrastructure right now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will go on to another question that was submitted.
How will you continue services and improvements without raising taxes?
We'll begin with Ms. Landis.
Well, we were lucky enough, actually, and we made the budget in a way that it was efficient, and is always a trick to try to balance good services without raising taxes. It's always a trick. But we were able to do it because, first of all, what we did last year. Last year, we took the debt, we had a big debt, and we refinanced the debt. That refinancing gave us $320,000 back. That was one thing. Second thing is trying to bring more people to the village, trying to widen the base of the people who pay taxes. It's a bigger plan and based on economic development. I can promise that at least in the next year, I will not raise taxes. The money is still there. We can still run the village without raising taxes. Can I promise that I'm going to go on forever and ever without raising taxes? Obviously not. But for the foreseeable future, we can do that.
Thank you. Mr. Essick.
First of all, your government should be operated like a business. You have to operate within your means. The way we fund our funding for our budget is through taxes, and if our expenditures are more than what we're bringing in taxes, we have to fund that with unreserved fund balance. You can't keep that up. You can only do that for so long. So we have to find ways to operate efficiently and effectively and continue the same services. It can be done. That's the way businesses and private industry do it. They operate more efficiently and effectively. Eventually,
Okay, sorry.
I can't say, there would have to be decided on as far as if we'd ever have to raise taxes. I don't know. It depends on services that we give our residents and what they cost. So, but if you operate efficiently and effectively in our departments and make sure that you do, that will help.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
30 seconds.
Sure. I don't believe that the government can work as a business. In a private business, when somebody doesn't work well, when something doesn't bring money, you can fire them. In the government, as my opponent said, we have unions. That's very difficult to do. That's very difficult to fire anybody. That's very difficult to stop something from happening. So you have a way, it's a much different way to operate a government than to operate private business. Thank you.
Thank you. Question at the mic?
So I just wanted to know from each of the candidates
Get close to the mic, please.
what you consider to be your greatest accomplishment, and in the spirit of good politics, Mr. Essick, if you could speak to what you think Mayor Landis has done successfully.
Thank you. We will begin with Mr. Essick.
Well, Mayor Landis has, like she has stated, the village as a group has attained many grants to address different issues in our village here, and she has been involved with a lot of those different projects. So moving forward, yes, we have projects. A lot of them haven't started yet, but they're in the progress of being started. So I would say the different grants and the monies that were gotten by the state and so forth, the mayor was part of that team.
Thank you. Mayor Landis,
If I understand, the question is my accomplishment,
your biggest accomplishment, yes.
Okay, first of all, I was involved in all grants. It's a very long process to get a grant. It's a very long process. You have to find the money. You have to talk to the people. You have to convince those people that you need the money. You have to give them a very specific broad way as to where you're going to use the money, how you're going to use the money, how much it's going to cost. It's a very long process. So I was very involved in every one of the grants. Now, my biggest accomplishment is that finally, after 12 years of people in 6 neighborhoods having brown water from their faucets, having to deal with it, having to pay for that, finally they have clean water. That's my biggest accomplishment. The last signature was last Friday. They have clean water, and I can sleep easy. That's my biggest accomplishment.
Thank you. All right, please hold your applause. This is interesting because we have a question from a 9-year-old student, which I really like that. What will you do to increase the safety of our children in schools? We will begin with Ms. Landis.
Well, for a long time, I was a big supporter of the SRO, of an officer at the school to increase security at the school. A part of that, making sure that streets are safe, making sure that the crosswalks are safe, making sure that the speed limit is being observed by all drivers are part of that. Inside the school, I mean, I can cooperate with them, but this is not really in my jurisdiction to do. So, having said that, I go to school twice a year. I talk with kids twice a year. I would like very much to continue that, and their safety is first on my mind. By the way, I invite the school to come and start discussion again for an SRO at the school.
Mr. Essick.
I, too, along with my opponent, support an SRO. And as a village, if the school would request an SRO officer, I would absolutely work with our team to figure out a way to offer that in the most effective and efficient way. I have, all my children have gone to school there. That is my, my biggest concern when they were going to school, and it's still my concern. I work at the school, and I see the thousands of children that go there, and that should be all of our most concern, is keeping our children safe while they're at a building such as that.
Thank you very much. A microphone. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Rick Ketchum. A question about cooperating with Dunkirk and other area municipalities as it pertains to water, police, and fire specifically. I'd like to know, do you think this can be accomplished, should be accomplished, maybe a common building for courts, police, et cetera, or do you think it's not possible at this time? I'd like each candidate to answer.
Thank you. Mr. Essick.
Absolutely. We need to start the collaboration between our municipalities. That hasn't happened for the last 4 years. Early on in my tenure, we had the opportunity to explore a shared police facility with the city of Dunkirk, which my opponent did not want to do. The funding for facilities such as this relies on having multiple jurisdictions be part of a collaborative connection there. And I believe we can do that with the city of Dunkirk, the towns that surround us. There's so many things that we could collaborate on that we just need to start to do. And that starts with building relationships with these individuals who are in charge of the communities, and also with the state and federal levels as well.
Thank you. Ms. Landis.
I'd like to start by saying that we already have very good relationship with the city of Dunkirk specifically, but with other municipalities as well. And that happens again in the morning. We just had lunch with the mayor of Dunkirk and the president of the college. Now, there are many things that we're cooperating on. My first responsibility, however, is the people of the village. Whatever comes to my desk, whatever comes to my mind, whatever comes from people who come and make proposals, if it's for the good of the people of Fredonia, if it's for the good of the area, if it's going to save money, of course I'm going to say yes. In my mind, we should have cooperated, for example, for the wastewater treatment plant. I said that from the very beginning. We're spending a lot of money individually. We spend almost $5 million right now. They spend about $8 million. That was a very good way, a very good place to start cooperating. But however, we didn't do that. We're still talking about the North County Water District.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Question?
What would you both do to help ensure the hospital gets built?
Say that again.
What would you both do to help ensure the hospital gets built?
We'll begin with Ms. Landis.
The hospital is a big problem, and I'm very sorry to say that, but it is. It's also very close to my heart, because let me tell you something, and when the paper the other day said that I was petrified, I was horrified that the hospital was not starting, my real fear is that the hospital will close down, and all this area will not have a hospital. I worked very diligently to bring the hospital in the village, because I thought that was the best place for the whole area, a very central place for the whole area. For different reasons, and I can't get into them right now, this didn't happen. Well, one of the reasons, my opponent was part of it. My opponent went there, and he picketed outside the Brooks Hospital. That picketing went all the way to Albany. That's not in my mind. I was told that. I was told that the impression was that the village of Fredonia, through the trustee, who not only picketed there, but also said, oh, I have to finish that.
Was that a minute?
I have to finish.
Finish the sentence.
Okay. Gave wrong information about our wastewater treatment plant and the ability to actually process the waste. That went to Albany, and now we don't have a hospital.
Thank you. Mr. Essick.
Let me make one thing very clear. Myself as a trustee, I have no say in whether the hospital is coming here or not. It was the planning board and the zoning board and the hospital and the state. So my actions actually showed that I was concerned with a large group of village residents who opposed that. I did not pick it. I was there in support of village residents who opposed the hospital coming. So myself, as a village official, I have no say in whether or not the hospital comes or goes, and that's it.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, 30 seconds.
As a village official, my first responsibility, again, is to the people of the village and the area. I promise that right after the election, I will travel to Albany to talk to the health commissioner. I already talked to him on the phone to push this issue, because we have to understand, without a hospital, there is no young family who will going to move in the area with the closest hospital either 45 minutes north or south. There is no older people who are going to stay in the area. All these millions of dollars that came to the village, that come to the village,
Thank you.
is for nothing.
Thank you. Microphone.
Good evening, candidates. A number of years ago, I heard an interesting statistic that for every manufacturing job there is in a community, there are 9 people that support that worker. What will you, as mayor, do to support manufacturing growth within Fredonia?
Mr. Essick.
First of all, I will make sure that our codes are up to date and enforced fairly. I will have communication and relationships with business owners. We need to foster the businesses that are here currently, and we need to foster and promote businesses to come into our village. I would also collaborate with the surrounding municipalities and see how we could work together along with the county, IDA, LED programs. There's so many things that we can do to help business come and stay here. We just need to collaborate with other municipalities and other government agencies and to work with the people who are trying to come in here. We need to communicate, we need to work with them, and we need to help them out, whichever way we can.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Linden.
It's my turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is what we are doing right now. First of all, talking to IDA and talking to the county is all good. Again, has to happen in the morning. But more than that, my job as a governor official, my job as a mayor is to promote the village. So when I know that there is a lot, there is a front store, there is an empty building, I try to think, I talk to people as to what we can put in there. And then I communicate with other people. I call Buffalo. I call investors. I talk to investors. Right now, I talk to 2 different investors. None of them is manufacturer, one is food. But they're going to bring jobs. We have 35 new businesses in Fredonia. These are new jobs. These are in the last 4 years that we started. We have a big business, Agri-America. They're going to, in the next 2 or 3 years, 100 people are going to be employed there. There is another building right downtown.
Thank you. We will continue.
Okay.
Mr. Essick, excuse me, why did you vote against having a public meeting on amending the charter to remove the word administrator?
From the start, I did not feel that that position should have left our administrative team. At that point, I did not feel that we should move forward in eliminating it totally from our language, from our charter and our code. You never know. The next administration, whomever it is, may decide to reinstate some form of administrative person in that manner, and I just didn't believe that was correct.
Can I answer?
Yes.
Okay.
1 minute.
Well, let's make something clear. My opponent did not vote no on the removal of the word administrator. He did in the next meeting. My opponent voted no to have the people come into the village hall at a meeting and say their opinion. That's transparency. I may not just agree with something, but having the people there to give me their opinion, how is that? How can anybody vote no on that? Well, he did. So I understand his position and why he did it, but at the same time, not having the people there, I'm totally against that. That was a public hearing that you voted against.
Can I rebut that?
Yes, 30 seconds.
The reason I voted no at that meeting, now that I think of it, was the procedural, the way the procedures were handled in handling that public hearing. It was not against the public hearing, it was the way in our resolution that the public hearing and the language in there was handled. The language was wrong, it was not correct. I'm not against public hearings at all. That's the way you get transparency with the public, and I absolutely want the public input.
Can I answer for 10 seconds?
30 seconds, and that's
30
it.
sec- Okay. Well, so that was a protest vote. So instead of coming and saying, let's start from changing some of the wording so it'd be more comfortable, it's better to say, well, I'm voting against the public hearing because I don't want people to come and hear and talk. That's my understanding.
Thank you. Question at the mic.
Hi, this is for both candidates. There's a lot of conversation about jobs being brought to Fredonia. I only know of one other person my age that's a homeowner in the village, and I'm wondering if there's any initiative to bring people my age to own homes in Fredonia.
I didn't hear
Say the question again, the last part.
I am wondering if there's any initiative to bring young people to own homes in Fredonia.
If there's any,
Young people, like my age, my demographic moving to Fredonia, are there initiatives to attract
Initiative.
us here?
thank you, I didn't hear the initiative.
sorry about that.
That got swallowed away. We'll begin with Ms. Landis.
Actually, there are a few things that we can do, and I'm looking into everything, and I'm going to discuss this with the planning board as soon as the election is over, hopefully. I see that as a very positive thing. There are a few things that other municipalities do to help they take specific streets, let's say, and they devote those streets in new ownership by young people or by artists or by specific demographics. And they give some credits, they give some way of incentives to these young people to come and live there. These are very interesting programs that are used all over Europe and in some places in the state of New York. So I'm very excited, actually, to do something like that and very open to it.
Thank you. Another question that was submitted.
May I?
Oh,
may I
yes,
answer that,
I'm
please?
sorry. You want to, yep, absolutely,
That's
30 seconds.
excellent. Did we, only 30, did we both were asked that?
Was it
That's
good?
for both candidates.
Okay, then you have a minute.
Okay, that's a very good question, and that process hasn't been handled yet. During a park concert this summer, I was approached by a young couple, and the individual, the boy, was a resident here his entire life. He had moved away. He had a girlfriend, they got engaged and came back. The way you provide possibilities for homes is provide the young people jobs. And that person was willing to be part of a committee that I would love to hear from and get input on what we need to do to retain these young individuals here, what we need to do to bring young people back, and what we need to do to provide them employment so that they can buy houses and different things of that sort and stay in our community and be part of our community. So providing a committee consisting of young adults that could consult the village team here, absolutely.
Thank you. A question for each candidate. How will the village be best served with the hiring of an additional police officer? We'll begin with Mr. Essick.
Well, it has been brought up by our police chief and various other people. We are not a part of the Southern Tier Regional Drug Task Force, and drugs are a big issue in our community along with other communities. We need to address this. We need to address it most efficiently and effectively. If it requires another police officer, absolutely. I need to get facts and figures and arrest figures and make sure that this is a serious problem. And if it is, as it is stated in the public, then we will address it properly. And if we have to hire a new police officer, we will. But we need to make sure we're operating efficiently and effectively as we are currently.
Ms. Landis.
Yes, again, the drug is a big problem. Drugs are a big problem in our community. We have 4 schools here, we have young people, we have older people, but the drugs are a big, big problem in the community. I believe that an additional police officer is probably necessary, and I'll go with that. As my opponent said, of course, we have to make sure that the money is there, but that's what we do for each and every employee. Hopefully, with the next administration, the next village board, will be able to start discussing and cover these problems in much more specific and detailed way.
Thank you.
This is for both candidates. You have both talked about infrastructure. Can you tell me how much it costs to pave a road, and how will we pay for it?
We'll begin with Ms. Landis.
Okay, infrastructure is, of course, one of the biggest problems, and for now, we are addressing it in many different ways. So, if I take as example the Central Avenue. Central Avenue was paved, and if I make a very quick calculation, I would say it's about $300,000 per half mile if we do it at home, if we do it ourselves with small help, or it can be up to $500,000 per half mile if we have to go out and put it for contract. So it's a very expensive process, and we just completed some of it. Yes.
Mr. Essick.
Yeah, I am not aware of the exact costs of paving, but our paving program can be done with a federal funded program called CHIPS, and we do utilize that program, and that program was used to pave Central Avenue. So that's a federal funded program that we can utilize, but we also need to put these different kind of projects in our budget and capital budget projects, and make sure that we upgrade our streets, because it's a super big part of our infrastructure, and it's part of attracting business and keeping our residents happy.
Can I answer that?
30 seconds.
Sure. Well, CHIPS is a program that we use. It's a state program, actually, that we use. And although we use it here and there, it's by no means enough to fix all the streets. It's a help. It's a big help. But by no means it's enough to fix all the streets. The money, now I heard my opponent saying that he wants to use fund balance to start addressing infrastructure. Our fund balance is about $1.5 million. We already spent, right now, we spent about $2 million for 6 streets.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Question at the mic.
This is for both of you. I just wanted to know, as we're talking about the drug issue, would you be supportive of a methadone clinic in our area?
Say it again, slowly.
Would you be supportive of a methadone clinic in our area?
Mayor Landis.
Yes. The short answer is yes. Whatever we can do to make people able to fight that problem, I am for it. Now, it has to be very specific, in a very specific area, has to be under our jurisdiction, has to be under our supervision, but the short answer is yes.
Mr. Essick.
That is a very good question. It's a very serious question. Of course, yes, I also agree. We need some sort of substance abuse rehabilitation process in our area instead of shipping the individuals up to Buffalo like we're doing currently. The problem is nobody wants it in their neighborhood. Finding a suitable space for this sort of thing would be absolutely necessary.
Thank you. Next question that was submitted ahead of time. What research was involved in the proposal to have village residents that own land on Canadaway Creek be required to clean up the debris? We'll begin with Mr. Essick.
I don't know what research was done because I did not propose that project. I opposed it. I thought it was just a crazy idea to try to force the homeowners to pay to clean something up that might have washed down the creek from somebody else's property. Speaking to Bradley Bentley, the county public facilities supervisor, the county would like to handle this on a county-wide issue, because this isn't just a Fredonia issue. There's creeks all over the county that this happens to. So it needs to be handled on a regional issue for a number of reasons. You can collaborate and get the job done in a more efficient and a cost-effective way if it's handled by more municipalities, and you can spread the cost around. And I think that's where Brad was going with that subject. But as far as the research, I didn't propose this, so I have no idea about the research.
Ms. Landis?
Well, it was not a research per se. What it was complaints from people who live there. It's very easy to say, well, I don't agree with that. So what do you agree with? When people come to the village hall, when people call the village hall and say, I can see a problem happening in my backyard, what can I do? Well, I call the DEC. That's the biggest thing. They told me specifically that's the homeowner's responsibility. So I started a discussion about that. Now, my opponent is right. I talked to the county as well. Guess what they told me? That's going to be up to the individual homeowner. Now, the good news are that this person from the county is trying to put together a fund so that fund can help the individual homeowners cleaning up. But that's where they are. It has nothing to do with our research. I was answering a complaint, as I do always. That's what they told me, that's what I'm saying.
Can I rebut
Yes,
that, please?
30 seconds.
At one of the meetings, one of the last meetings that this was proposed, that we, as trustees, turned down that proposal or voted it down, there was a county legislator that came to our meeting and asked the mayor why the county wasn't contacted to assist in this. So I'm not sure what research was done, but nobody was reached out to contact to help assist on that level.
Can I just say that I called the county?
30 seconds, and
I
that's
just
it.
said that I called the county, and I got that information from there. Actually, I had a very long conversation with the county, probably about an hour and a half, where he explained, and the name is in my papers, he explained specifically what I just said. This is a very long problem, about 3 miles of a creek, and the problem has to be, we have to answer the problem for the whole length. But his answer was exactly what I said before. Of course I called the county.
Thank you. We're going on to the next question.
Pedestrian and bikers, excuse me, safety is a concern here in Fredonia. How would you act to improve walkability and biking? Are you aware of Complete Streets policy?
Mayor Landis.
I am aware of Complete Streets policy, and actually the village, I understand, passed this a few years before I took office. Walkability is one of my proposed ways to move forward. Walkability is very crucial for economic development. Walkability and safety downtown is one of my tools when I went to the state and asked for money to start fixing the downtown. So this is what we're doing. Part of the $1.2 million that we have spent in downtown is going to be spent on improving the safety of the downtown, improving sidewalks, improving curbs, making sure that the distance between sidewalks is not very long. So this is part of what we're doing, and at the same time, I'm cooperating with the state for the whole length of Main Street. So it's a big problem. I'm very much aware of it and trying to fix it.
Mr. Essick.
Yes, in addition to that project there, we need to expand that greatly. Over the summer here, we did a listening tour And in our village here, we have assisted living homes, we have homes for disabled individuals, and outside of the regular downtown business district, our sidewalks are in most cases deplorable. So in order to solve that, we need to work getting in touch with different officials on programs to get these different disabled people and aged elderly people to be able to come downtown, and that expands more than just the downtown area. We have to work in the neighborhoods that lead up to these assisted living homes and homes for the disabled, because even if a lot of the people are in these motorized wheelchairs, and they're forced right now to go into the street, and that's unsafe, that's unacceptable, and we can't do that. It's not only in the wintertime, it's in the summertime that this happens. So we have to work on that.
Can I answer?
Yes.
The problem with the sidewalks is all over the village. I started a discussion with the planning board, and there is a committee that is meeting, discussing how can we go forward with the sidewalks. Now that I walk all over, and not only now, my opponent mentioned disabled people, and I know a few that have to do that and go over broken sidewalks. Well, it's very difficult to find the way, but there are other municipalities that have some ideas, and currently we are discussing them with the committee.
Thank you. This question is for Mr. Essick. Why did you vote against the Barker Commons grant when a room full of constituents, the county executive and our state senator, wanted you to vote for it?
That's a very good question. And at that meeting, I don't know if the upset residents in attendance understood, we were asked to make a decision without having the contract in front of us and not having all of the information in front of us. I would ask any of you, would you make a decision on buying a house or a car or anything without the contract in front of you or not having all the information in front of you? By no means am I going to make a decision that I might put the village in any kind of liability or any other problem by not having all the information in front of me. I will not make any decision unless I'm totally informed with all the information. And that night there, the park grant contract we did not have in front of us. So we were asked to accept, to pass that contract, and I did not do that because we had no knowledge of it.
Thank you. Yes, you may respond if you...
Well, that's not true, actually. This is what happened. That was probably the 6th or 7th meeting regarding that downtown Barker Common. That was the first project on the Central Connection project. That was a project very much supported by the state. And the decision was not very big. It was a specific amount of money. The state gave us $313,000. We had to put another $70,000. What we were going to do with this money was up to the board, up to the public, and up to the board. But the money was very specific. There was no difficult decision at that point. I remember my opponent. He said, we can't afford this. I want the board to forget about it. A very, very anxious senator and county executive called me the next morning saying that this is not good. This is not going to sound good for the state. We're going to lose more money. We're going to lose our reputation. And then, again, my opponent had many, many meetings
Thank you.
about that.
Can I rebut
Thank
that,
you.
please?
30 seconds.
I don't know where my opponent is quoting me. I don't recall saying that, but I will not make a decision without being fully informed. And that night, I was asked to make a decision without having all the pertinent information in front of me with a contract.
Okay. This is the last question before closing. I'm going to ask Mr. Essick and Mayor Landis a question at the same time and give them a chance to each respond. Mr. Essick, what does being a Republican mean to you? And Mayor Landis, what does being a Democrat mean to you? And we'll begin with Mr. Essick.
Being a Republican, when I was first able to vote and I had to sign up to vote in high school, President Reagan was the president at the time. I was asked what party I wanted to be. I chose to be Republican. In a local race and local politics and local government, party affiliation really should not be any part of that. You need to vote for the person who will do the right job. I believe locally, we see everybody every day. It doesn't matter whether I'm Republican or Democrat. I'm your trustee currently, and I would like to be your mayor, and I work for you. It doesn't matter whether I'm Republican or Democrat, and it doesn't matter what you are either. I will treat you the same, and I will do the hardest job I can if elected as mayor.
What does it mean to be a Democrat, Mayor Landis?
In my mind, Democrat means that I like to help people. I like to give people opportunities. I believe people when they come to me to tell me their problems. It means that I have empathy. Now, different things, different words mean different things to different people. That's overall what it means to me. It means that in my mind, I am who I am. But at the local level, again, there is nothing like that. If your water is brown, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or a libertarian or anything else. If you have a problem and you come to my office, you know that I hear. You know that I can listen. You know that I will answer. So in the local politics, it means absolutely nothing. I am the mayor of the village, and I will remain that for each and every one of the people who are there.
Thank you. We will now allow 1 minute for a concluding statement, and we will start.
Actually, 2.
1 minute for a concluding statement. And we will, if there was confusion, I apologize for that, but we'll start with Mayor Landis.
I started before. Did I finish now?
We do not reverse it now. We go in the same order.
Okay.
There's advantages to both ways.
Okay, because I want to scratch some of the things. On this election, there is a very clear choice for the people of Fredonia. The paths ahead of us could not be more different. If people want to return of a time of no grants, limited transparency, and closed doors, a time when following the actual law was not mandatory, a time when money was either hidden in plain sight or forever lost for our taxpayers. If people want to go back to not only a part-time mayor, but a mayor whose full job at the school district will almost never allow him to be at the office during working hours, a mayor who will be never able to call any state agency or any engineering firm or any neighborhood elected official, or SUNY Fredonia for that matter, during regular working hours. Someone who obviously doesn't believe that the people of the village deserve a full-time mayor, my opponent is your obvious choice and will lead us backwards. As your mayor, I have worked full-time and beyond. We were able to get the money we did, build relationships, and move forward because of that.
Thank you.
I would like to continue moving forward and humbly ask for your vote.
Thank you very much. Mr. Essick.
I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate, the audience, and those who are viewing from home. As your mayor, I will represent the residents with respect, dignity, and professionalism. I would like to work with the board to get an automated water billing system. This will enable online billing payment of water bills. The enhanced service could be very beneficial to our residents and may reduce employee time processing our water bills, thus creating efficiencies. A shared municipal building for our police, fire, courts, and administrative offices is very important for our community. We can start saving money in a modern state-of-the-art facility. We can solicit interest from any neighboring community that is interested and get to work on a plan. Our current facilities are failing, and we need to move towards sharing these costs in the future. Teamwork between the mayor, the trustees, village employees, village residents, as well as SUNY Fredonia and surrounding municipalities is the concept that I propose to accomplish the goals that need to be done in Fredonia. Listen, folks, busy people get things done, so I'm asking for your vote for
Thank
myself
you.
and Team Fredonia.
Thank you very much. Very nicely done. Thank you. We are going to do a quick changeover here for the candidates for village trustee. Thank you, audience. You're a great audience, and we look forward to you in the second half. Thank you so much. Minute of your concluding statement. The mics are live, and Mayor Landis is going to talk, so I think she is. Are you? have present on stage the candidates for trustees for the Village of Fredonia. We have Cara Christina, Vicky Cunningham, James Linden, Roger Pecos, Dale Ricker, Rose Rowland. Candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to a question they received prior to this meeting and include a brief presentation discussing their qualifications. After the opening statements, candidates will have the ability to question one another, and members of the audience will be urged to ask questions of any candidate or all of the candidates. Each reply will be limited to 1 minute. I also want to say that if there's a rebuttal, I will determine how many people get to rebut, because we can be hearing it all night long. So you'll have to trust me on that, and rebuttals will be limited to 30 seconds at this point, but if it drags on too long, I will reduce that to 15-second rebuttal.
If a question is addressed to a specific candidate, others will be welcome to add comments or replies of their own. Candidates will also be able to rebut or challenge one another, limited to 30 seconds. There will be 1 or 2?
2 minutes.
2 minutes for closing statements. Again, the question received ahead of time: what do you consider the most pressing issue facing the Village of Fredonia, and what would you do to address and resolve this issue if elected?
We'll begin with Ms. Christina.
My name is Cara Christina. I'm asking for your vote to serve a second term as village trustee. There are two important qualifications necessary to be a village trustee. One is having a vision of a better community, and the second is the ability to work together to serve the greater good to achieve that vision. Over the last 4 years, I endeavored to do those. I was asked to state what I thought was the most pressing issue facing the village. What is really more important is what the people of the village think are the most pressing issues. These are the concerns I hear when I talk to people. Water, maintaining a fresh water source and addressing storm and sewer drains, which leads to the next concern, which is infrastructure, a police station, sidewalks and trash cans, and civility at village board meetings. We have addressed many infrastructure issues, most through grants and low-interest loans, and will continue to do so in the next 4 years. I will always vote to protect and preserve our fresh water source, the reservoir. The police station is a high priority, and we are currently looking at relocation, maybe building a combined municipal services building. Of course, money is always the issue, but with the help of our grant writer, Travis Gordon, I'm hopeful that at least some resources can be found. The cleanliness and walkability of the village is very important to me, and I think we can try to do a better job of addressing those particular issues. Running a village with several municipal departments, employees, a large budget, and various other moving parts is a challenge. It is a challenge to bring together people who have vastly different ideas about how to manage and maintain all of those moving parts. I have tried to remain respectful, truthful, and thoughtful in my comments and actions, and I will continue to do so if reelected.
Thank you. Mr. Ricker?
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting us here tonight, and thanks to everyone who attends and watching on TV. I graduated from Jamestown High School, and I have an associate's degree from JCC in criminal justice. I served 2 years active duty and 4 years reserve duty in the Army during Vietnam. I've worked at Basil Chevy Buick Cadillac here in Fredonia for about 12 years as a maintenance and transportation supervisor. Prior to that, I was a police officer here for 28 years. None of that matters anymore. What matters here tonight is my desire to put my knowledge, experience to work for you as your village trustee, regardless of whether you are registered as a Republican, a Democrat, independent, conservative, or have no political preference. I'm willing to listen to your opinions and concerns and work with everyone to find solutions for the village's needs. I think that everyone agrees that the most challenging immediate concern is our infrastructure. We need safe drinking water, a sewage treatment system, facility that can handle the needs of the village residents and businesses that we serve. We need good roads, we need safe streets, and if we are to attract new businesses to this area, we We need safe sidewalks so our elderly can get around town without fear of falling. To get these things done, we need department heads who will be accountable for their departments and their personnel. I am running for trustee because I see a need to work towards a better, more efficient Fredonia. We need to do a better job bringing businesses to Fredonia, and we must support the businesses that we have or we will lose them. These are the businesses that use our water, pay our taxes in the village. I feel that Team Fredonia can get the village back on the right track because we have the drive, desire, knowledge, and time to do a good job for the village residents. Thank you.
We'll continue with Mr. Linden.
Good evening. I'm James Linden. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for providing this opportunity to meet the candidates and for the members of our community for being here tonight. I'm a lifelong resident of the area, a father of 3, grandfather of 2. After working for 6 years as a union steelworker, I pursued my dream of entrepreneurship here in Fredonia and opened my business over 31 years ago. My wife is the proprietor of her own business for more than 13 years. Additionally, I provide commercial space for another successful Main Street entrepreneur. I have served the village as an appointed member of the Planning Board and currently hold a seat as an elected official on the Fredonia Board of Trustees. As your trustee, I have attended conferences with local, county, state, and university officials, participated in workshops, and viewed webinars for governmental research and information. I meet regularly with our mayor and governing officials, and as needed with department heads, and have collaborated with organizations and boards of neighboring communities. I've sponsored and or supported by my vote resolutions that are producing revitalization to our community with fiscal responsibility and administrative efficiency, moving Fredonia forward. In my opinion, the most pressing issue facing the village is maintaining the forward momentum in economic growth and development. It is important to produce follow-through for the progress we have made over the last nearly 4 years, providing millions of dollars in revitalization and upgrades to our downtown area. The investments from both public and private sector is creating a healthy environment to attract business and create jobs, but more needs to be done. I will continue to research and support programs and initiatives that will be beneficial to our community members and visitors. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pecos.
Good evening. My name is Roger Pecos. I've lived in the area almost my whole life and in the village for the past 17 years. I've been a member of the Parks and Recreation Commission for the past 15 years and also served several years as Recreation Director. This experience has given me some insight into the village budget process. As Recreation relies heavily on assistance from the Department of Public Works, working with them I have insight on what they face on a daily basis. And I'm an honor roll member of the Fredonia Fire Police, and my time as an active volunteer affords me some insight into the many issues facing our fire department. There are a number of issues facing our village, but our residents can only afford so much. We have received grants for upgrades to Barker Commons, this beautiful Opera House, and Main Street. That's an excellent start. We need to complete these and build on that. I have campaigned with town and county candidates, and our message has been improved communication and cooperation. I've had the same conversation with candidates with the city of Dunkirk. We stand a better chance of getting a grant if we are working together, and my brother Dan and I have had conversations with Mark Thomas regarding possible funding available for Rush Joy Park through the state. We need to continue to improve our infrastructure. Recent discussions regarding capital reserve funds for water, sewer, and our reservoir make sense, and I fully support that. We need to make the necessary repairs to our fire hall and investigate any grant money available for a new facility for our police and fire that will meet the ever-growing demands on those two departments. We need to continue to look for ways to attract people to visit and settle in our community. Festival of Fredonia's, in my opinion, had an excellent year, and I would assist them in improving and growing our many activities. Our recreation department does an excellent job of providing activities for our younger children, including our oldest activity, our annual Halloween parade, which is this Saturday at 1 p.m. But we don't do as good of a job for our high school students. Many people my age and older reminisce about the hub. I would initiate conversations to see what our high school students would want. In closing, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event and for all of you who attended.
Thank you. Mr. Rose.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Roland Rose. I was born and raised in Chautauqua County. I've lived in the village of Forestville for the last 12 years with my wife, Melissa, and I have 2 grown sons. I have served 2 years in the United States Navy during Desert Storm. I was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. Upon discharging from the Navy, I've in the area working for the last 25 years in various companies such as Cliff Star, Walker's Wine Juice, and Stericycle, where I'm located. I've been there for 12 years, and as of now, I've worked my way up to shift lead supervisor. I have been an active volunteer fireman for the last 25 years, currently serve as a member of Fredonia Volunteer Fire Company. I was previously a 3rd Assistant Chief for Fenner's Hose Company. I am also an active member in the Forest Lodge of Freemason. I am interested in improving the infrastructure of the village such as water, sewer, spillway, and reservoir. I would hope to start implementing the 2017 water analysis or decide if we need to go in a different direction. I think this is a very top priority for the village of Fredonia. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Cunningham.
My name is Vicky Cunningham. I was born and raised in Cattaraugus County and have lived in the village of Fredonia for the last 12 years with my husband Jeff and our twins. I've worked in the healthcare field as a registered nurse for over 40 years in multiple areas, including management and compliance. I have a 2nd degree in business, management, and economics. As a candidate, I feel my organizational skills, compliance background, and business experience would be an asset to the board. I am strong in starting projects and seeing them through in a timely fashion. I am very much a data and statistics person and believe that government should be run like a business. This includes prioritizing projects, setting goals, and following strict timelines. Our infrastructure issues in our village need all of the above. We have old water pipes that need replaced, cracked and missing sidewalks, and streets with no or few street lights. Our children are having to walk in the streets to get to their school buses, and our elderly and handicapped are having trouble negotiating our poor and missing sidewalks. Our board should be proactive in developing a budget, goals, and timeframes to deal with these issues, not waiting until a pipe breaks, residents are injured, or complaints are lodged against the village. By being proactive, we can ensure the safety of our residents. I feel that addressing infrastructure issues is essential to providing basic services to our residents and businesses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we get to go to a question and answer format, and hopefully some of the introductions that the candidates had will bring questions to your minds. If you wish to ask a question, the microphone is in the front of the house to my left. Do not make statements. Our interest lies in hearing the candidates' responses. If you are shy, raise your hand and someone will give you an index card to write your question. And again, they will be screened for repetitiveness and appropriateness. Rebuttals, again, are 30 seconds, and we will determine how many rebuttals we will consider. So there's nobody at the mic, so our first question.
Why are we not part of the North County Water District?
We'll begin with Ms. Cunningham.
Well, there was an analysis done by a private firm in 2017 that, from what I understand, set out all the issues that we need to resolve at our reservoir, what needs to be fixed and such. I think the citizens need to be presented with both that analysis and the cost and what needs to be done, and also look at the North Water County District and compare cost and benefits for the community.
Would you all like to respond to this question before, or just sure, random? All right, so Mr. Linden.
Sure, I'd be glad to. There was an analysis, and there was thorough research on the costs involved. The cost was clearly concluded that there would be a major increase in cost of overall cost to the village resident for their water if we were involved. But there would be also long-term costs for maintaining the reservoir if we shut it down. It really came to the final conclusion that it didn't make any sense for the people of Fredonia to be involved with the North County Water District.
Mr. Pecos wants to.
Mr. Pecos?
I would agree with Mr. Linden. I also was told that if we were to join that, our water districts that are outside of the village, we would lose those. Those would go to the North County Water District. And so therefore, the village would lose that revenue that we have right now. And so it would actually cost us money. And I believe that was another reason why we didn't jump right in. I still think it's worth investigating, and I still think long-term we need to be part of the water district, and hopefully our reservoir is a backup for it.
Ms. Christina?
Yes, in the original contract, Fredonia would not have been a supplier. We would have purchased our water from Dunkirk.
Closer
and
to the mic, Kara.
That we would have purchased our water from Dunkirk, and our reservoir would have been closed. It's very expensive to decommission a reservoir. It was very cost prohibitive. I think that I personally would be open to, and we actually have been, some people have been going to meetings with the North County Water District Commission if we could be considered a supplier or a backup supplier.
Mr. Ricker, do you want to comment on this?
No.
Mr. Rose, do you want to comment on
Not
this?
at this time, thank you.
Okay. Nobody's at the mic. There is a question for Mr. Rose, though. What are the recommendations of the water study you mentioned?
Alls I know is that the study was done, and I have not been informed everything on that. I don't know all details on that. I just know we need to, I need to, and the team needs to look into the analysis that was done in 2017. That's all I know of right now.
Anybody else want to comment? All right. Question at the mic.
Yes, I'm very interested in what, I don't know what your name is at the end, when you brought up the hub. I've been very concerned about what is there for teenagers to do in the winter. The summer programs for the parks are excellent. I mean, they're fabulous. But I'm thinking teenagers. When I was growing up, when you mentioned the hub, we had it. We had
The
everything.
question is?
My question is, what are you going to do for the teenagers? Bringing back the hub, what else? What other ideas?
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you
Who
have
wants to field that question?
I'll take that. So, having just retired from Fredonia High School after 30 years, 31 years actually, having been a student council advisor for most of that career, I've been involved with a lot of planning a lot of activities for our high school students. But there is definitely a lack during the summer, during vacations, and even in the evenings. The student council can only do so much. So it starts with a conversation with the students to see what they want. Do they want a hub type of atmosphere where they can go relax, listen to music, maybe if they have a band, or do they want something different? So I guess we start with what is it they would actually like to have. I don't want to do something and then find out nobody wants to come to it. But definitely, you know, idle hands are work of the devil. If there's nothing for students to do, then they're going to look for something to do, and sometimes, unfortunately, that's not a good thing.
Anybody want to weigh in on that?
I would.
Yep.
I agree with Mr. Pecos that we need to go to the source, which are the youth, and to find out what they want. We as adults can say, oh, this will be great for them, that'll be great for them, but we need to go and listen to them and take their ideas to heart.
Thank you.
I would like to.
Yep.
In the last 4 years, our current mayor had initiated a student group that came to Village Hall and discussed many of the things that they would like to see in the village. And I'd like to see a little further movement back to that again, so that I'm sure she has that in her mind. And I think that was a great opportunity for the students to speak, because I sat in with one of their groups to see how they were progressing. What a great group of people. I mean, they had some really great, excellent ideas, so I'd like to see a little bit more of that.
Thank you. Okay, we can move on. There's a question at the mic.
Would each of you support mandatory training in government to help you better serve the village? Training for the trustees.
What was the last part?
It's training for the trustees to help them better serve the village. Would you support that being mandatory?
Why don't we just go down and we'll start from Mr.
Yes, I think
Rose.
there should be mandatory or some type of training for trustees coming up. I'm new to this, so I'm learning. So it would be great help to have the trustees go to class, do whatever the government can help us with to serve the village better.
There are trainings, and there are many webinars and things like that. The problem is that they're frequently during the day. So if you work during the day, it would be almost impossible for you to attend. So I'm not sure they should be mandatory, but should they be available at other times for people to be able to participate and train and learn things? I think absolutely.
Mr. Linden.
I think staying informed is really necessary, and the state does provide an awful lot of training, which I try to take as much of that as possible. I know that when I was on the planning board, went to regular meetings annually. So I think that, and actually with the planning board, it was mandatory. You had to have a certain number of hours. But what they provide for the trustees, I think there's a lot out there. And I said, all of the trustees should take part.
Ms. Cunningham.
I agree that there should be mandated training, and I think NICOM, the New York Conference of Mayors, I know on their website they have a lot of trainings that they offer. The same as when you're going into any new job, and I'm a newbie to this, I would want to be trained in areas that I'm not used to working with, or different areas such as civil service laws and such as that. So yes, I'm in favor of that.
Mr. Ricker?
And I also am in favor, anything that would help us to help you is a great thing. I don't know how would go about it. You can't send a complete board to Albany for training. It'd have to be done over the web, I would imagine, but it would be a great thing. Yes, I'm in favor of it.
Mr. Pecos?
And I too have, as I said, been over 30 years in education, so every year we're going through in-service training, so it's something that I'm not new to. I think there probably should be some basic training for all new officials, and then if there's webinars to increase your knowledge, I think that's an awesome thing.
Thank you. Next question.
Are you for or against the administrator position?
Who would like to start that?
I'll start with that. I don't want to give my opinion of if I'm for it or against it. I'm more what the village residents would like. If it helps relieve all the rigmarole that's going around in the village, it would be great to have one. But it's more of what the village residents want. I mean, I think we should have something like that. But like I said, it's more towards what the people of the village want.
If any village board would be interested in pursuing the position of administrator, I would be in favor of bringing it to a public referendum.
I am in favor of not necessarily administrator, but an unelected individual who would bring stability to the village hall. And mayors and trustees are going to come and go. So when the mayor, if mayors are not reelected, if trustees are not reelected, you lose that history of the resolutions, a person that knows exactly, yes, that resolution was passed 2 years ago, and also a history of the finances. You know, we did this 3 years ago. So again, I think the history and continuity and stability are a big thing.
Can I, add to that, or does everybody have to share first?
Let's hear from everybody first, if you want to comment, Mr. Linden.
As Trustee Christina said, if I agree with her that as far as the if the future board would like to have an administrator, then it would have to go to referendum. Taking it out of the code was the wise thing to do because it shouldn't have been there in the first place. I find that the newest established administration within the village hall, the way it is now, with separate treasurer and clerks, we have found great efficiency. Over this last period of time, things are running very smoothly.
Thank you. Mr. Pecos?
I questioned whether or not we should get rid of that position, something that had been in effect for over 50 years. That had seemed to work well. Obviously, as a resident, I'm not privy to all the information, so I guess I'd want to look at more of the information if elected. But I would also support the idea that if it's what the residents want, and if it's on a referendum and you vote for it, then we have it.
Mr. Ricker?
Yeah, I think the current village board made a mistake. They eliminated all reference to a village administrator. It didn't say we had to have one, it said may have one. Why take it out? You replaced a village administrator with 3 different people now, 3 different salaries, 3 different benefit packages. I think you've raised the cost of the village administrator or village manager, or whatever you want to call them. Now you have a treasurer, a clerk, and a administrative assistant, or whatever she is, to do the payroll and anyhow, it's just, it was unnecessary to take all the language out because it said may have, any board, future board could have reinstated it, but if the village residents want it, I think it should be on a referendum also.
Thank you. Kara, did you want to rebut?
Yeah, I just think, I think the idea of having someone with continuity, I don't think that's a bad idea, but the way it was is that the administrator served at the pleasure of the board, so any board could remove and have another administrator at any time. So there may have been continuity, but there doesn't have to be continuity in the old way that it was done.
Thank you very much. Is there any question from the audience? There doesn't look like there's one at the moment.
There's, just to have a
Yep.
quick rebuttal. I think it was Dale that mentioned that the costs were more. We're actually saving money by having a separate clerk and treasurer. We also have another person that has now been put in place of human resources. So, and the finance clerk has always been there. So this is where we're finding the greater efficiencies and savings. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Candidates, when you talk, make sure you're attentive to the microphone.
Okay.
And you've all been really good with the timer, but you notice the yellow light glaring at you. So, green light glaring at you. So when it's red, you know you're done. So, yes.
Hi. I'd like to respond about the 3 positions taking over the administrator's position. I'm in favor of that because it installs checks and balances. It's not just one person running the show. Thank you.
I guess you didn't have a question. You just wanted to be heard, and this was the space for it. I gotcha. Here's a question for the incumbents. Why is it okay to charge Town of Pomfret residents 3 times what village residents pay when the village doesn't provide services? Who would like to jump into that one from the incumbents?
Could you read the question again, please?
I will. Why is it okay to charge Town of Pomfret residents 3 times what village residents pay when the village doesn't provide services?
Three times for what? I guess I'm not clear what. they're referring to?
I'm reading the question. You can try to figure out.
I mean, we have contracts, the village has contracts with the town.
Excuse me?
For certain.
For water? Yeah. For water. Why is it okay to charge Town of Pomfret residents 3 times what village residents pay for water when the village doesn't provide water? Is that correct? No. We'll change the question, because I can't figure it out either. Can anything be done to help the White Inn? Who wants to answer that?
Well, go ahead, Roger.
Hopefully. I mean, if I'm elected, I'm not just going to ignore it. It might be something that's totally out of our control. My understanding it's the bank has the ownership now. I'm not sure if that's true or not. But I would work with the mayor and the other trustees to at least get some conversations going and find out if we can get that advertised and hopefully try to find a buyer that's willing to come in and put it back to the beautiful hotel and restaurant that it once was. It's a shame to see that eyesore sitting there, and it does us it's a disservice to the village. So I would do anything and everything possible to try to get a new owner for that.
We have had conversations with a variety of different people, with the college, with Nate Aldrich, with the county. I think the problem is that the money that's owed, there's so much money that's owed on it that nothing can be done until that is paid back. We have had discussions with the college hoping that maybe there could be a partnership with like a chain hotel. The college did get a grant to work on it, but unfortunately the grant just was not enough to rectify all the problems. I have a dream that the White Inn could be brought back someday, and it would be a regional conference center, and it would be a farm-to-table restaurant with all locally sourced foods, beers, wines, spirits. There would be performance space. So I have discussed that with our grant writers in the past, and I know that's been discussed with the college as well. So there are plans and there are hopes. It's just a matter of who's going to pay the bill and before anything can be done with it.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Thank you. All right. Question at the mic.
Thank you, candidates, for running for this office. I appreciate that. Generally speaking, are you in favor of regionalization of shared activities and services? And if so, why? And if not, why?
Okay. Ms. Cunningham?
I am in favor of regionalization and shared services. Right now, I'm in favor of sharing mainly facilities at this point. We need to look at efficiency. And again, with my degree, and I have certifications in process improvement, where we look for where the waste is, and we look how we can improve that process and be more efficient, especially financially. So yes, I would be in favor of such as getting our police out of the place that they are in, the building they're in currently, into another building, even if when we have to share it with another municipality.
Thank you. Who else wants to weigh in on that? Mr. Ricker?
I'm in favor of regionalization. I believe that none of the municipalities around here have done enough to work together. If we all work together, we can accomplish so much more. And the village of Fredonia, the city of Dunkirk, at one time there was talk about sharing a police department. I'm afraid that there's too many, we'll call them politicians, they're afraid to lose their grip on their little corner of the world. They don't want to share. I'm not like that. And I think that we should have regionalization. I think that we're going to have to sometime down the road if we're going to survive.
I believe that regionalization absolutely has a place, but I also think that it is not the cure-all, and I also think that in many cases it doesn't save money as we would hope or that people think. Regarding the police station, there was a committee that got together. I believe Trustee Linden was on the committee, and the problem was that there was not enough money to create, or money available to create a joint police force. The other problem is that you have two different unions, so you have two different police forces with two different unions and two different packages of benefits and pay rates and things like that, so that was also an issue. The other thing is that with regionalization, you have to get the two entities, whatever two entities they are, to get together to work, and sometimes it just doesn't work. So is it a good thing? Sure. Does it always work? Not necessarily.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that question?
Sure, yeah, I'd like to, thank you.
Mr. Linden?
Shared services can be a great idea as long as they're beneficial to all the parties. And I was involved with the police department committee talking about when we discussed the shared service with Dunkirk, and the costs were not prohibitive to do. It was not a political thing. It came down to nothing but costs. I also attended a committee with the incubator that was brought to the county. It was actually required by the state for the county to investigate a various type of shared service, and that was the one we were looking at. It was then again determined that it was not the best interest of the village to do at that time. So that's where it's at. So we're not with that at this point, but I am for the possibility of shared services when it makes sense.
Thank you. I think we'll move on. Next question. Anybody else want to comment?
That's fine. We'll move on.
Okay.
If you could change one thing in the zoning code, what would it be? Is it possible that greater zoning flexibility will allow for profitable development, business success, and a broader tax base?
Who would like to start with this? Mr. Rowland? Mr. Rose?
Yeah, I think the zoning is good right now for the area. We just need to work if any other business that comes into the area to see what we can do to help them achieve to get the zoning correct. If it's going to cost a little more money, see how we can help them find the monies to make sure the zoning is done right. I don't think we need to, I think we want to overdo the zoning, and I think right now at this time, I think the zoning situation is perfectly good. I don't see any problems with the zoning.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Pecos.
Obviously, we have zoning laws to protect our property. Obviously, people on Central Avenue don't want a college bar right down there, so there's reasons why we have it. I'd be more interested in having the village and town update the comprehensive plans, working together, have our planning boards working together so we can try to bring in investment, bring in more business into this community, and let that drive zoning. If something needs to change at that point, then we look at it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Could you repeat the question exactly what that was? I'm sorry.
If you could change one thing in the zoning code, what would it be? Is it possible that greater zoning flexibility will allow for profitable development, business success, and a broader tax base?
Okay. The comprehensive plan is a great place to start, and we should continue to review that. And it's a comprehensive plan is something that needs to just, it's like a living entity. It has to continue to change. But in our zoning codes should follow through with that. But it is also great to look for locations for new business. Right now, our zoning does protect the neighborhoods, and it's designed for that way in the businesses. I don't have a one particular thing as far as that goes, as far as zoning, though.
Thank you. I think time is kind of advancing on us quickly. I'm going to change the responses to questions to 30 seconds and rebuttals to 15, so we can move a little more rapidly. The next question, how do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in Fredonia? Who would want to start? Ms. Cunningham?
I would involve residents in the decision-making in Fredonia, number one, by putting more residents on committees. I think sometimes what I've seen with this administration is they form a committee and maybe one resident is on it. We need more representation by residents. The other thing is getting out and talking to the residents. On our listening tour, we heard a lot from residents and we learned what was important to them.
Who else would like to jump in at this? Mr. Ricker?
I think one of the things that I would like to see is at the board meetings, currently we only allow residents 3 minutes. That's kind of foolish. I understand we have to have decorum and all that, but to only allow somebody 3 minutes to talk at a board meeting is kind of ludicrous. It's denying them their full potential to bring out facts. People don't want to come to a board meeting and have somebody.
Thank you. This is 30 seconds. Mr. Pecos, did you want?
Yeah, I kind of actually like the way the school board meetings run, where there is a public forum at the beginning of the meeting to address anything on the agenda, and then they have one at the end of the meeting where residents can bring up any concern. And if we did something like that with the village board meetings, then if people had ideas they wanted to bring out, they could do it at the end of the meeting, and it would improve the communication and give us a chance to hear what's on their mind.
Thank you.
I'd like to have more people come to village board meetings. I feel like many times there are very few people there unless there's a big issue, and that brings out a lot of people. But if we could get more people there at more meetings, that would be great. I like Roger's idea. I think that kind of makes sense. The 3 minute, I believe the 3 minute rule is something that has always been in effect. I don't think we instituted that. I think that's the way the village board meetings have always been run. I believe that's true.
Yeah, but why?
Thank you. Did you want to rebut? Did you?
Why is there a 3 minute limit?
I don't know.
Something for the new board to discuss.
Right. It's always been that way. I mean, it's been that way for as long as I've been on the board.
Mr. Linden.
Correct, it's been that way. It's just a way of controlling how much time, so it just can go on and on and on. For here, we have 2 minutes to bring our statements to and get our effectively address the community, and that's at the village board when you have 3. And you always have the opportunity to get a hold of the trustees or the mayor, and we've actually given more opportunity than there's ever had before for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I reply?
Yes.
In those 3 minutes, you're allowed to ask questions, and that's what the public is told. And supposedly those questions will be answered during the board meeting. I find at most board meetings that is not true, and that needs to change.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Any questions from the audience? All right, we'll move on. If you received $1 million grant to use for the village any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why? Answers will be 30 seconds. Kara?
$1 million is not enough. Well, let's talk about the White Inn. I would love to rehab and save the White Inn. The other thing is I would like to upgrade our parks and provide more opportunities for young people to participate in their community through different parks and activities in the parks and playgrounds.
Mr. Pecos?
I like your White Inn idea. I also think the police and fire is immediate need. Like you said, though, $1 million doesn't go far. As much as it sounds like it's a lot of money, it goes pretty quick. So maybe a hub, if that's what the students want.
Mr. Linden?
Sure. I know it isn't enough. but we need to start putting money aside for a new public safety complex for the police, fire, and courts.
Anybody else want to respond to
Yeah, I
this?
think we should start with that money and look into trying to get either another industry in here, improve on the industries that are, not industries, but the business that are here, so we can try to get more people into the village. We need to get more business into the village in order to do it, and I think the $1 million is a start to try to find a way to get people in here or try to keep them here working and employing people.
Anybody else? Okay. No, Mike, so here we go.
Are you willing to commit to reducing the use of fossil fuels by municipal departments, as electricity and so forth, as a leader and role model in the face of climate crisis?
30-second response, Mr. Pecos.
You've seen a lot more homes putting solar panels up. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it's a cost-effective way, so I think we should look at that for our village buildings as much as possible, including wastewater and sewage treatment, fire hall, everything.
Mr. Rickard, do you want to comment?
I'm in favor of solar panels. I'm not a big fan of windmills, but I think the village needs to do more to save electricity, to save water, and I would be in favor of anything that reduces fossil fuels.
Ms. Cunningham.
I would definitely be in favor of solar energy. It is renewable, it doesn't leave a carbon footprint, and it lowers electric bills, so all positive things.
Mr. Linden.
I'm certainly in favor of reducing use of fossil fuels. We are currently changing over the street lights and the park lights to LEDs. It's going to not only save us a lot of money, but it also saves us the production of electricity that needed to light the community. I'm also in favor of becoming a green community, designated as a green community, which would allow us to get grants so we could utilize state funding and possibly even federal funding for solar panels and that type of thing. Thank you.
Yes, I would absolutely be in favor of any policies that create a greener community. Solar farms, solar panels, absolutely. The other thing that I would like to do is I'd like to reduce trash. I mean, I don't know if that's an ecological issue, but in the village and vibrant communities have recycling programs. So downtown where you would have trash cans, you also have different recycling bins, and I would love to institute or try to do something like that in the village.
Mr. Rose.
I am in favor of going green. Myself, I have solar panels and small wind turbine. I'm for both solar and wind. Yeah, they got the massive ones that nobody likes because they make noise, but in the small community of Fredonia, we can build small turbines that can produce enough electricity, and you know we don't have enough sun here, so it would help a lot more with wind and sun. Yeah, I said it right. Thank you.
The mic.
Yes, Cara Christina mentioned trash cans downtown, and it just popped in my mind. We used to have trash cans downtown. The fact is we don't have them anymore. And I wonder, and I realize they can't be everywhere, they gotta be emptied and all that, but I'm surprised that they were removed. Maybe it's a cost to empty them. My question is, why were they removed, and could they be reinstalled?
I don't know why they were removed. That's a great question. I think it was just a matter of manpower, to be honest with you. We've had some infrastructure issues, and I think it was a matter of just getting them out. But yes, I would like to have them out, and if reelected, I will definitely make sure that that happens.
May I?
You can comment, sure.
I had, again, a person on our listening tour, a handicapped person, say that when going downtown, if you're on the business side, the only way to get to a trash can is across the street. So again, more trash cans, especially for handicapped people that it's going to be difficult to cross the street.
Thank you. Here's just a general question with a 30-second answer, please, for the trustee candidates. How will you increase economic development? We'll start at this end, maybe.
I'll start with that $1 million that someone said that they could give us. And just work with our government, work with the county and the state to see what they can do to help us bring better manufacturing here, and improve the businesses that are here and just help out. We just need to get them in.
Could you repeat the question, please?
How will you increase economic development?
That is the question, isn't it? Well, first of all, I think we need to have a clean village that is attractive to people, with sidewalks that are handicap accessible, and neighborhoods that are clean and inviting for people. And hopefully when Athenex and things like that come in, people will want to live in Fredonia. It is worth noting that we have had over the last few years 35 new businesses come to downtown Fredonia. I'm not sure if people know that. That's quite a large number, a variety of different businesses.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Linden?
We have, and I supported the resolution for this Main Street grant, which allowed for businesses to participate in rejuvenating the front of the revitalization and rejuvenation of their businesses that are really kind of in poor condition. By bringing the quality or community up, the businesses will be more attracted to that downtown. But this was a way for public and private investment. The property owners were, thank you.
Thank you.
One of the biggest ways we can bring business to Fredonia is to have trained workers for them, especially manufacturing. And this is why I totally believe in BOCES, trade schools, vocational schools. We need the trained workers here, and that will also draw the business. And we can give business incentives to have students come and work with them and train with them, and I think that would attract business to our area.
Mr. Ricker?
That's a tough question. Being one of the highest tax states in the country, being one of the highest tax counties in the state, it's very difficult to convince people to come here, bring your business, we're going to take care of you. How are we going to take care of people when we're the highest taxed county in the state? I don't have an answer for this, I'm sorry.
Mr. Pecos?
Well, I mean, basically, you're looking at two things. Trying to make this village attractive where people want to move here and maybe build a home, which is, of course, going to increase your tax base, but then also trying to attract business. So you work with the county and the town so that if there's a business looking for a place, they know exactly what we have to offer. And if we update our comprehensive plan, we know where we can add businesses and specific types of businesses.
Thank you. We are going to now have our concluding statements, and they will be 2 minutes. And we will begin with Ms. Christina.
It is undeniable that the village is in a better place than it was 4 years ago. Infrastructure improvements, millions of dollars in grants, more cooperation with groups like Festivals Fredonia and the Chamber of Commerce, the college. It hasn't been easy, and it has not been without controversy. But so much has been accomplished, and there is still so much more to do to move the village forward. As I said earlier, the most important qualifications necessary to be village trustee are having a vision for moving forward and being able to work with others to achieve that vision. As stated in my opening, I have endeavored to represent the residents of this community thoughtfully, respectfully, and truthfully. I would appreciate the opportunity to be allowed to represent you and to continue to move the village forward as I have the last 4 years. I'm asking for your vote on November 5th, or should you choose early voting that begins October 26th. Thank you.
Mr. Ricker?
We need to work with our neighboring communities to help all communities in our area. I support shared services, shared buildings, shared community centers. We cannot grow alone. We need the help of each surrounding community to help us grow, and they need us. If the city of Dunkirk, the towns of Dunkirk, Fredonia, Sheridan, Pomfret, and the villages of Fredonia, Brockton, and Cassadaga all work together, the benefits for all communities would be 10 times more powerful than any one of them working alone. I believe that we could have a shared community building with any or all of these communities, that we could serve all the residents of the communities, and we could bring in way more money together than any one community can bring in alone. For those of you who would like to see a change for the better, Team Fredonia, Doug, Vicky, Roland, and I can make that happen. We believe in separation with cooperation. The executive branch, the mayor, and the legislative branch, the board, should remain separate, and the practice of running the village by the executive branch should come to an end. Together we can stop the bickering and fighting among the village officials that takes valuable time away from serious village business. I am running because I think I'm the best person for the taxpayers. Although I'm running as part of a team, we call it Team Fredonia, I owe only the taxpayers. I am an independent thinker who will look out for the village residents. Before I vote on any resolution, I will ask myself, do we need this law? Do we already have a law that if it was enforced would suffice? How much will it cost? Where will the money come from? Can I personally live with it? And who will benefit? And most important, does it make sense for the taxpayers? I will not vote for anything until I know all the facts. I am here tonight to ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Linden.
As your trustee, bringing reform to the village hall administration that became a contributing factor in other achievements, such as no tax increase in 4 years, is one of the best accomplishments. I will continue to support a government culture of integrity and transparency, and a community culture of respect and engagement. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pecos.
Again, I'd like to thank the audience for being part of this Meet the Candidates Forum, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for providing this. I want to thank Rick Davis, Chip Rewalt, and your staffs for helping us with this. Our community is faced with many challenges: aging water lines, some streets that need major work due to water breaks, upgrades at the water and sewer treatment plants, upgrades at the reservoir. Our police department needs an adequate facility. Our fire hall needs major work. The village has secured several grants for improvements. We need to continue to investigate all options for funding to address these issues. We need to do what we can to stimulate growth. We have great activities like our Red, White, and Blues Festival that bring people into our village. But we need to encourage investment. Both the village and town need to update our comprehensive plans, and we need to have our planning boards working together to encourage growth. This should be a team effort, not a competition, so that we can attract business to this community. There are job opportunities right now in this county, good paying jobs. Hopefully Athenex and a new hospital will provide additional opportunities. So we need to continue to make Fredonia a place that people, and especially our young residents, will want to return to work, live, and raise a family. If you elect me village trustee, I will work to improve communication, cooperation, and collaboration with our school district, the town of Pomfret, the county, Dunkirk, and anyone else willing to work together to improve our communities. I look forward to serving you and working with others who share this vision. Early voting starts this Saturday. I encourage everybody to vote, whether during early voting or on November 5th. Thank you.
Mr. Rose.
I'd like to thank the League of Women's Voters for sponsoring this event. I would also like to thank the residents that are attending and the ones that are watching at home live. I endorse a team approach to the government of Fredonia. I feel the Team Fredonia is a great choice for the village. I look forward to working with the board and the residents to create a better future for the community. I'm urged to assist in addressing infrastructure issues in a timely fashion. I'd like to see more new businesses in the community to thrive, and the ones that are here to thrive and help try to keep them here. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Cunningham.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate and thank all of you who attended. I'm running for this position because I care about and want to give back to my community. I've been involved in the Boy Scouts of America for over 14 years and have seen firsthand how people can make a difference. Fredonia is where my husband and I want to retire. This is our home, and we love the warmth of the people here. I've had the privilege of campaigning and working with Team Fredonia for almost 6 months. Going door to door with Doug, Dale, Rollin, and myself, we have gained invaluable insight into what the village residents' concerns are. We will be the voice of the people across party lines. We represent all village residents. Those of you that know me know that what you see is what you get. You know also that I will put my heart and soul into being the best trustee I can be. You know I'm approachable and open-minded. You know that I believe we can agree to disagree, and that's okay. I'm asking for your vote in early voting and on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the candidates. I want to thank League members Tina Rauza and Pat Carell, who have coordinated 3 Meet the Candidates nights across the county, and it's a difficult job to do. And we could use your help if you want to join the League and be a part of this voter services team. I want to thank Jack and Mary Croxton for timekeeping. Today was just about perfect, guys. Thank you. Chip Rewall and Local Access has broadcast tonight's event, and it will be rebroadcast way up on channel 1301, and it will also be on YouTube. So look for it if you want to kind of replay some of the answers and some of the questions from this evening. Of course, we want you to vote. A lot of candidates mentioned that. Voting is an essential step in our democracy and affirms the democratic process. The polls, of course, will be open on Election Day, November 5th, from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. However, one success was early voting, as was mentioned a little earlier. There are 3 sites in the county, and you could go to any one of those 3 sites: the Chautauqua Mall, the Board of Elections in Mayville, and in the North County at the fairgrounds starting October 26th for 9 days before the election, but not on Monday, November 4th. If you vote early voting and something may change your mind about a candidate, you cannot come back on November 5th and change your mind. So early voting is convenient and easy, but that's it. Once you vote, you vote. We don't allow 2 votes per person here. So thank you all. You've been a great audience. Good night.